Hi, this video is made to speak to the B-Spec SCCA racing community. I've been running a B-Spec car for a couple of years. I had an incident at the Cat Nationals, July of 2024, turn 3 opening lap that didn't turn out very well for either myself and the driver. We had video of that on Facebook, both from my car and from a car behind us. There were some comments made about what happened there that I want to address. There are three things I want to talk about with this video. Racing room, which is one of the regulations we operate with CCA. Also want to talk about low power momentum spec, and then also talk about tires to some extent. Now, I've been racing cars since I was a teenager. I started racing on the ice when I was a kid because SCCA wouldn't allow you to race with them until you were 21. So long ago I started. When I turned 21, I started with ice racing initially. And then when I turned 21, I raced with SCCA for about 5 years. Did a variety of series and cars, had a lot of fun. Got away from racing for several years. In the middle 1980s, came back to SCCA, did some regional racing with a Honda CRX, was fun. Got away from it again, and in about 2006 or 7 or so, I got involved in circle track racing, both local short tracks here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. But did some traveling too, went to Milwaukee Mile, ran there 3 times. Love that track. It's my favorite circle track. But ran Memphis, ran North Wilkesboro, had a lot of fun. Raced with ARCA, with Midwest Tour, US Super Trucks. Had a NASCAR license. Had a lot of fun. Got out of the truck racing in probably 2013, 2015, came back to the CCA. Built a 04 Z06 Corvette to run in T2. I ran in T2 for 6 years. Had a blast, ran all over the country, ran the Super Tour series, finished 5th at the runoffs in Daytona the first year. That's my best runoffs finish. 2017, 2018, I managed to win the Super Tour points championship in T2. And the thing I want to mention about my experience over the years is that I have run hundreds of racetracks side by side with hundreds and hundreds of other drivers in both circle track and road racing. Some of the races I had in T2 Corvette at Elkhart, Black Rock, Mid-Ohio, several races there with people that I got pretty familiar with, Alan Fossa, Eric Kaplan, and we ran side by side every single turn at Road America and those other tracks. With the exception of the kink. I'm not going to run side by side with somebody in the kink. But we'd run a whole race and trading places and side by side and get out of the car, shake hands, give each other a high five, and there wouldn't be a mark on either one of us, on either one of our. Now, B-Spec racing is a little bit more helter-skelter because the cars are so much closer. There's so many of them. And these underpowered cars, I mean, the momentum, you've got to maintain momentum. There's bump drafting. It's really tight racing. So there's a lot of elbowing here and there, and touching side by side. But so far up until Cat National, it was very respectful and very professional. Now, the thing I want to bring to your attention is the SCCA regulations, specifically pertaining to racing room. So these are this is Appendix P. This is the racing rooms identified in the regulations, and then this appendix is referenced. And it talks about safe, successful passing on what is based on what drivers can see. An overdriving car bears the largest percentage of responsibility for passing safely. And it's all about being able to see each other, okay? And they have a diagram here. Cars are one slightly ahead of the other, but in the field of vision. Now, when you look at what happened with myself and this other car at the Cat National. This is going down into turn 3 on the opening lap. And as you can see, I'm in the white car on the left. There's a red Mini Cooper to the right on the inside. We are literally side by side. If anything, I'm slightly ahead of him at this point. So am I the passing car? Is the Mini Cooper the passing car? Good question, because we're running side by side. And again, these are these regulations. As we get down to the point of turn in, this is the point of turn in, and we are dead even side by side. Now, Appendix P in these SCCA regulations say, should the lead car decide to go with him? So in other words, we're both doing that. We're both deciding to go with each other side by side. Then both cars must allow each other racing room, at least a car width plus or so with the edge of the racing surface. And that's not exactly what happened. So on the screen here. So here we go. This is coming out of turn 1. We're in 2A at Elkhart. And going down into 3. This is from a car behind. We're dead even going in. Now at this point, the Mini Cooper is slightly edging ahead of me. So that's the passing car, if you look at the regulations, because he's passing me. And at this point, in order to allow racing room, that Mini Cooper should have tightened up his exit of that turn. If you look up ahead, there's cars side by side up there. See that black car on the inside, red car on the outside? They are allowing each other racing room. And that's not what happened here, because this Mini Cooper goes all the way out to within what, a foot of the racing surface. Now, at this point, my right front tire is slightly ahead of his left rear tire. And that's what became problematic. People have made comments on what they saw on Facebook that the guy in the white car should have backed off. Well, two things. With a low horsepower car, less than 100 horsepower, it's all about momentum. And if you take your foot off the throttle, you're going to get passed by half a dozen cars. And they do call this racing. Okay, this isn't time trials, this is racing. So I'm simply trying to maintain my position in this pack of cars. The other thing about a front-wheel drive car is that they don't get terribly upset putting wheels in the grass. So I'm not terribly concerned about that. I'm running out of asphalt because there's an apron that goes out and comes back to the regular asphalt surface. That's not that big of a deal. And so I'm not aggressively trying to get back on the racetrack. But what happens here is that we touch and it gets pretty crazy. So you can see we're both essentially straight, and neither one of us is turning towards the other. But here's what happens: we hook and go off. Right? Now, I'm suggesting that the reason that we hook and go off is because of these wider tires. Get the right thing on the screen here. Get this up. So this is a post on Facebook from early in the years, showing how these Goodyears are slightly wider, just less than an inch, but slightly wider than the Hancocks previously. Okay, and this is really what's going to cause such a problem here. So you've seen Formula cars, especially when they touch wheels, and typically the front axle of a Formula car will go up and over the rear axle of the opposing car. Now, we have open differentials on these spec cars. So that means that as if two tires touch, the front of one and the back of the other tire, they're going to stop moving because they just hit each other with opposing directions, and they're going to stop. One doesn't keep going because it's driven by the lock we were in. And so that's what happens. That's why we hooked and went off so quickly without turning into each other. It looks like we did. It looks like either one of us turned into the other. That's not going to happen. Both were essentially going straight. Now, again, it's been my experience that you can safely negotiate these corners side by side, and done this on so many occasions in the past. This is the June sprints earlier in the year, and you can see how we're coming down to start the race side by side. And as we go down into turn one here, especially the first 3 rows stay side by side, and the cars on the inside are turning at a sharp enough radius so as to allow room for the cars on the outside. So here I'm able to deke on the inside. The Schwartz here is going to dive over to the apex because there's nobody inside of it. Okay, there's no one inside of Frank here, his Mini Cooper. So he dives into the apex, which is fine. There was nobody next to him. But you see these cars up ahead here? I mean, these other cars that are up ahead are able to negotiate side by side here because the car on the inside is staying far enough inside to allow the car on the outside to stay in the racetrack. You see that up ahead there? The black car, the red car ahead of it. I mean, there's 3 cars on the inside line leaving room on the outside. And that's the way that this should be. And so that's what did not happen at the Cat National. Now, in retrospect, here's what I learned. When you're racing with people you don't know, I guess you can't trust them to follow the rules as written. Secondly, now that I know what happens when these B-Spec cars get together, and again, it was my right front, his left rear, touched. When those 2 tires touched, his left rear tire literally stopped, which caused that sort of pit maneuver action on his car, violently turning. Nothing he could have done about it. So in retrospect, I'm going to make sure that if ever our tires are that close to each other, front to rear, then I'm going to stay further away. Because again, we've touched so many times cars just ever so slightly, and it's not a problem in this particular case. So B-Spec drivers, be forewarned. What this little extra width of tire, the problem that can cause. And so stay as far away from each other as you can, I guess. So that what happened to me in that Mini Cooper doesn't happen. All right. So thanks for listening to my little tale of woe. But again, I hope we all can gain something from it and avoid this kind of thing. Have a good day. Most important, be safe.